Assalamu alaikum, this is your computer science teacher Sarfawad Akhtar Ansari, and today I will explain you two-dimensional array, or you may call it 2D array. So first of all, what is a 2D array? So basically it is a data structure which can store multiple values into a tabular form, or you may say that it is used to organize the values or each piece of information into a tabular form. Like in the spreadsheet, you see that there are the columns and there are the rows, and it is pretty much organized and easy to read. So this is how our 2D array works in the system. So you may see that the data is allocated in the memory in an organized manner. So like in the row number 1, you may see the marks of test 1, which is out of 25, is 24, and the marks of test 2, which is out of 25, is 23. So the record of the Muhammad is this. So you may see row number 2, record number 2, we can call it Ali's record, and the row number 3, Abu Bakr's record, row number 4, Usman's record, and record number 5, Umar's record. So this is a pretty much organized manner, as you can see, that is being stored in our system. So this is how where we use two-dimensional array, and this is a use of two-dimensional array. That is why we need to make the program in the two-dimensional array format. So you may see that it is also a matrix of rows and columns. I hope you understood that why do we need two-dimensional array and what is a two-dimensional array. So it is a data structure which store the values of the same data type. Like if there are the 5 names of the students, so these 5 names consist of string data. So the data type is a string. So in the test 1, this contains the data type integer, and the test 2, this data type contains integer as well. So this is how you may organize it. Furthermore, if we go for the other applications, that where do we use our two-dimensional array, so you may see that we can use it in image processing, or we can use it in the matrix operations. It could be plus, minus, or multiply, or any other formula that you use. We may use two-dimensional array in the board games such as chess or checkers, or wherever you see the board games that requires rows and columns. So these kinds of games, like you may say that we make these games in the 2D array. And data required in tabular form, whenever you need to organize your data in the tabular form, like in this example that I made in the spreadsheet. So this is where we will use two-dimensional array. That is why we require. So now let's make a pseudocode of this scenario. So in this example, in this scenario, I want to make the spreadsheet like this. Like you can see that there are 3 columns A, B, C, and 3 rows 1, 2, 3. If we talk in the computer term, so we may call it the column 0, 1, 2 and the row 0, 1, 2, the index position, if we start with the 0. And so 0, 1, 2 columns, 0, 1, 2 rows is starting the position index 0. So this is how we will try to make our program in this way. I have already made it. So this is what is the output of my program, and it is similar to the spreadsheet except the graphical interface. So you may see that A1, A2, A3 in this scene, A1, A2, A3, so A1, A2, A3, then B1, B2, B3, okay, B1, B2, B3, and then C column, C1, C2, C3, and then C1, C2, and C3. Here I organized it like column number 0, column number 1, and column number 2, starting with the 0, index position 0. And for the row, index position 0, 1, index position 0, starting position is 0, and then it goes for the 1, and the row last is row number 2. So this is how we organize it and organize our data in the tabular form. So Okay, I have already made the program and explain you how do we do it. Alright, so let's declare the array. So in the pseudocode we first write declare, and the array name, according to my scenario, I used to set my array name cell. And keep in mind that in this pseudocode I do not input any data. I do not input any data. So in this case I have already stored my data, right? So in this scenario, whenever you do not need to input any data, in this scenario you have to just write down the blank brackets, square brackets which are blank, and just write down the comma. It means that you have null rows and null columns. It means that your data will fill up automatically. So this is why you just leave it blank and just write down comma, and my data type is a string. Now I use to open my square brackets, and then this is the first set of data that I stored, that I declare in my array. A1 in inverted commas, then comma, A2 in the inverted commas, then comma, A3 in the inverted commas. This set has been completed, so I closed my square bracket. Now the second set of data is I write the comma here, and then second set of data B1, B2, B3. This is what I wanted to display. This is what I wanted to print on the screen that I am storing in my array. Then comma, then last and third set of data C1, C2 and C3. So this is my data of the array, and I stored it in my array name cell. Okay, I hope you understood the logic of storing two-dimensional data in the array. Now we will need nested for loop in this case, and nested for loop is considered to be the best loop because it contains a fixed iteration. So I use my variable name count underscore rows with the for loop, so I can easily identify or recognize that which for is using which purpose. So I want to count my rows, so count underscore rows, and data type is integer. So we have got 3 rows and my index position starts with a 0. So instead of using 1, I start with a 0 till 2. And then I use my inner loop. Count underscore row is the outer loop. I explain in the second code here. So count underscore row is my outer loop, and count underscore column is my inner loop. So it depends upon you that you may use first as a column and the second loop you may use as a row. So it is not a fixed position that you will first use row, column or row. So it depends upon you. I use my rows because in my scenario I have to fill up that data row wise. So that is why I use row first as the outer loop, and then I want to fill up the data in the row number 1. So the other loop is to set the values in the column. So that is why I use count underscore column. So my inner loop is used to set the values in the column. So this is how our row and column will work. And coincidentally I've got 3 columns and my index position starts with a 0, so it will 0 till 2. So I want to fill up my each row with the 3 values. So my each row will be storing 3 values, and then I will display it. So technical stuff, I know this is not clear, so I use my diagram here. So what my first, or you may call outer loop, will do. This is my outer loop. So how it will happen, how it will work, like 0 till 2. So first it will initialize, iterate first time with the row number 0. So this is the iteration of row number 0. It is blank, there is nothing in it. Now the inner loop, which is used to store values in the column wise, it stores the column number 0. So here I tell you by raising my values. So here it will iterate from the column 0. So in the column 0, here you may see here it is a column 0. It will display or it will store A1, right? Now it is simple. And then what will happen? It will display the data in the row 0 and column 0, which is A1. Now this next refers to inner loop, count underscore column. Now it will go for the second column. Now it is for the second column, and it will store the value in the second column, which is B1. Okay, done. Now it will go for the next iteration, because we have only filled 2 columns. Now the last column, which is column number 2. So it will fill up the values for the column number 2. And here we see that in column number 2 it will store the value C, and then it will display. This is the iteration of the column number 0, column number 1 and column number 2. So our first row has been filled up. Next, for the next line we will display just print. Okay, so print means it will go to the next line. So in the next line what will happen, I show you over here in the next code here. So after the print, what it will go for the outer loop. Why? Because our inner loop executed till 3 times, means starting from the 0 it will go till 2. So it has completed its iteration. Now it will go for the outer loop next. Now our row 0 has been filled. Now it will iterate row number 1. So the entire process will be done for the row number 1. So here we will see, if I extend this box, the layout will change, so don't worry. So it will go for the row number 2. Okay, now for the row number 2, okay, so for the row number 2 it is 0 over here. Row number 0, it has been completed. Now the same process will be done for the row number 2. Now for the row number, second row, we can call it row number 1 according to the index position 1. Then it will iterate the same process that has been done for the row number 0. Then it will fill row number 2 with the A2. Then so the same process will be done for the next row. Then we will go for the next iteration, which is row number 1. Then row number 1 will contain the 3 columns 0, 1, 2, and the same process will be repeated until we reaches to the last iteration, row number 3, or if we go with the index position, it will be row number 2. So 0, 1, 2 means 3 row. So the last row will be filled up, and then our program will be end here. So this is the logic of this program, and this is our output, expected output that we will see on our screen monitor. So this is example number 1. Now let's go for the, I hope you understood it. Now let's for the example number 2. Alright, now let's see example number 2. So in this case, let's suppose this is the output that I need to display using 2D array program. So this is a screenshot that I pasted on my document. And so if you see that there are 3 students, Ali, Sana and Sobia, and out of 25 Ali got 25 and 13 marks. These are the basically test marks, and you may assume that there are 3 tests that Ali has attempted, and he got marks out of 25. So out of 25 he got full marks 25, and out of 25 he got 13, and in test number 3 he got 24 marks out of 25. In the same way, Sana also attempted 3 tests and she got marks out of 25. So she got 12 in test 1, and in test 2 she got 24, and in test 3 she got 25. In the same way, Sobia got 15 marks out of 25 and 24 marks and then 25 marks. So these are the students that attempted that appeared in the 3 tests and they got marks out of 25. So this kind of output I need. So how do I make the pseudocode of it? So let me zoom out for you. First of all, let's declare. So here we go. So declare cell. Alright, the cell I used to call it my array structure name, right? And I just left it blank, my square brackets, because I want to store the data in the 2D array without any input. This is also another point, that I am not going to input any data. I am just storing the data, which is you may call a pre-stored data in the array. So I want to pre-store the data in the array. So this I left blank, and this is the comma that I use as a separator, and my data type is integer. Why I use this data type as integer? Because I want to store marks of the 3 tests. So in the square bracket, this is a test 1, test 2 and test 3 marks for Ali. Then I use comma, then test 1, test 2 and test 3 marks for Sana, as you can see here for the reference. And these are the marks for the Sobia for test 1 and test 2 and test 3. So this is the pre-stored value that I have stored in the array name cell. Now I want to store my student's name. Let's suppose I use the array name, and I just left it blank, and I store 3 names with the inverted commas, and data type is a string, of course. So Ali, then in inverted commas Sana, and then in inverted commas Sobia. So this is a declaration of an 2D array. It is not that much difficult. So the next thing is the pseudocode, that how can we do it. Now I show you the pseudocode. I just want to give some sort of gap, so I just use print statement. It is optional. If you do not want to give some gap, then you may write pseudocode without the print statement. So the purpose of this code, as you can see here, for I am using for loop definitely. So count underscore display name, as the name indicates that why do I use this loop and what is the purpose of this loop. So I use my variable name, which is understandable, as the name indicates, count underscore display names. So it will help us to display the names of the student. Okay, and its data type as integer, and there are 3 names, but my index position starts from the 0. So I am starting from 0, then 0, 1, 2, as we did in the last pseudocode. So 0, 1, 2, these are the 3 names of the student. So our loop will be executed. After that, print name. So it will display the names. How many times? 3 times, right? And with the gap. So in inverted commas, after the comma I use inverted commas. The reason is that I want to give some sort of gap, as you can see it here. Ali, and then gap, then Sana, then gap, and then Sobia. So I have just given the space between the names of the students, so it would be easy for the understanding. And then I use a next statement to close my loop, then count underscore display names. So it will just display the names, it will not display the marks. Okay. Now next code is, after that I have given another space to get into the next line. If you do not want to use print statement, then it's okay. You may do experiment yourself. So print, after the print I use nested for. So I use my variable name count underscore raw. In this case I am making my program according to the raw wise. If you want to switch, means row and column, instead you want to use row and column, you may use column and row. It totally depends on you, but I guess that it depends upon your program's requirement. So my program's requirement is that I want to assign the marks row wise. So the logic is, first row number 0 will be filled, then row number 1 will be filled, then row number 2 will be filled. This is the concept of my pseudo code. So row wise I will fill my data instead column wise. So row wise is easy to understand as well. So count underscore row, and how many rows do I need? 3 rows. The starting index position is 0, so 0 till 2. I give you a reference again that why we are using 0, 1, 2. It means that we have got 3 marks: row number 1, row number 2, and row number 3. So this is how we will do it. Okay, after that column, we will also have got 3 columns: Ali, Sana, and Sobia. So we will use to execute our loop 3 times. Same logic that we have done in the example number 1. Print, we will display our cell, right? And then in cell, how our data will be filled? Count underscore column and count underscore row. It means that we can see that our data, we will fill up column and then it will go to the next row. Then it will fill the column, then it will go to the next row. So this is how we will do it. So our data will be displayed here. And then the same logic that in the first loop, means our outer loop, our row 0 will be filled up 3 times. When this next count goes to here in the inner loop, so it means that our 0 row will first fill 3 records. When inner loop completes, then the outer loop will be executed. So outer loop will go next count underscore row till here. So when we will reach to the row number 1, so it will fill up 3 columns, then the loop will be executed. Then our outer loop will execute one more time because it's now last. So the columns will be filled again 3 times. So this is a logic that we have already understood in the example number 1, and this is the example number 2. And we do not input any data, we just pre-store the data, which is already, means the data which is already stored in the memory. We are just aligning the data, we are just allocating the space. So this is how our program will be organized. So I hope you understood it. Now let's go for the example number 3. Alright, now let's study example number 3. So in example number 3, we will study that what if we need to input the data and store it in 2-dimensional array. So this is a screenshot that I input the marks of the students, and when I finished input the marks of a student, I will see the display of my I will see the output of my input data in this form, like Ali has got 23 marks out of 25 in test 1, and he got 21 marks out of 25 in test 2. So there are only 2 tests in this scenario. Sana got 12 marks out of 25 in test 1, and 25 out of 25 got in test 2. And Sobia got 24 marks in test 1 and 25 marks in test 2. So if we see that we have got only 2 tests, test 1 and test 2 marks, right? And we have got 3 students and we have to record the marks of only 2 tests. So I input these marks and then I get this output. So first of all, we must learn that how do we make the declaration of this kind of pseudocode. So now keep in mind our scenario is to input the marks of these students, and then we will get this output. So declare marks is my array name, and this time we assign the rows and columns. So we have got two rows. So 2 is the rows. How? Starting position index is 0. So Ali is on index 0, Sana is on index 1, and Sobia is on index 2. So 0, 1, 2. So that is why we have just written 2 over here for the rows. And the second number is for the test, which is considered as a column. So we have got only two tests, test 1 and test 2, and index position of test 1 is 0, and index position of test 2 is 1. So test 1 index position starts from the 0, and test 2 index position is 1. So that is why we have written here 1. So 0 till 1 and 0, 1, 2. So this is how we will distinguish between rows and columns. So first I take raw, because in my scenario what I am trying to do, I am trying to store my values raw wise. It could be vice versa, but the logic is that I want to store marks in the raw wise formation. So that is why I use first raw. So I have got 3 rows. Index position of raw start from the 0, 1, 2, and my columns are only 2 columns for the test 1 and test 2, but index position of columns is starting from 0, then 0 and 1. So these are the columns. Next, my array name is the name, and I will store 3 students names. Starting position is the 0, then 0, 1, 2. So that is why I use 2. I write 2 over here, right? So this is a declaration of this kind of scenario in which you need to input your record, input your data, and store it in the two-dimensional array. Now I have given some space. It is optional. Print statement is optional. If you want to skip it, you may skip it. Now next is I want to display the raw first. So outer loop will iterate the raw, right? So the outer loop is about to iterate the rows, as we did in the last program, in the last code example. So first we will iterate the raw starting from 0. Then we will input the user student name, right? So enter the student name, and then it will store in the raw name, store in the raw. Then our inner loop will assign the memory location, or allocate the memory location in the columns. So count underscore column, this is my inner loop, and then we have got only 2 columns for the test 1 and test 2. So enter the marks of the student. So marks will be stored in the inner and outer. Okay, so here count underscore raw, it means that raw number 0 and column number 0. So it will iterate one time. Then our next count column, this next will go till here. Let me annotate for you. So this next will go for this loop, this form. Okay. So it will be easy for you to understand as well. So this for inner for or inner loop is guiding our for statement to go for the next iteration. So when it has finished iteration for the row number 0, column number 0, then it will go for the column number 1. Then it will again ask for the marks for the next test. So the raw remains same, raw number 0, and the column number is 1 now. So now it has finished its iteration. Now our outer loop will execute. Now our outer loop will execute, and now this time we see that how it will work. Alright, now when our columns are finished for the row 1, for the row 0, now it will go for the next iteration for the row number 1. So now it will ask the student name. Okay, fine. Then our inner loop will execute. It will ask to enter the marks, and then marks will be stored in row number 1 and column number 0. Then it will go for the next iteration for the row number 1, and now this time column number 0 will change into column number 1 because we have only 2 columns. So that is how it will allocate the memory location. Now it will iterate. Outer loop will iterate for the last row, then it will ask the student name, and then our student name. After the student name, it will go for the inner loop, and then inner loop will be executed here. So it will ask the student marks, and it will allocate in row number 2 and column number 0. Now it will inner loop will execute last one more time for the last column, which is 1. So our row number 2 remains the same, but column number will be changed. So this is how it will be done. So this is the iteration that we have completed, and then our program will be ended. The loop will be ended. Now to display for the output, how we will do? So just take the reference of the image. Now I want this kind of output. So how I will do the pseudocode of it? I will execute another for loop for the output. It will output the rows only. So for the rows only, I will iterate my rows 0 till 2, and then it will display the rows output, means row number 0, row number 1, row number 2, along with the names of the student. It will only display the names of the student. Now for the column output. Alright, so I made another nested for loop for the output of the marks. So it will allocate the marks and row number 0, column number 0, then row number 0 and column number 1. Then it will iterate for the next row. Same process will be repeated that we have studied in the above section of code here. So the same logic will be repeated here, and then our program will be ended. So I hope you understood it. So this is a logic that we must understand for the two-dimensional array, and I hope you understood. If you have any problem or confusion, you may ask me on my WhatsApp number. And thank you so much. Allah Hafiz.